Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to cut and sew long kaftan. The measurement I'm going to use, the full length is 62 inches, bust is 38 inches, shoulder is 14 inches, sleeve is 25 inches, and the round sleeve is 9 inches. Folding my material into two, so this length is now up to 62 inches. This length is 45 inches. This is 45 inches. I'm going to add about 17 inches to complete the full length. I'm going to add on top here to complete the 62 inches for the length. So I finished cutting the one I'm going to sew on top to complete the full length. So I'm going to sew on top now. I'm going to sew. I'm not going to leave it join like this. So I'm going to fold like this, iron. After ironing, I'm going to plait like this on top. I'm going to sew. I'm going to sew on top here. I finished sewing. This is the paper I'm going to use to cut first before I place material on top and cut. Shoulder is 16 inches, divide by 2, 8 inches plus half inch to sew. This way I mark, place my tape on the shoulder. So this way I measure 9.5 inches from shoulder down here, 9.5 inches. Bust is 38 inches, divide by 4 plus 2 inches to sew. This is the bust, this is the armhole, the shoulder. I'm going to continue just like this, like a A shape. The measurement on the bust and the waist is not the same. From the waist and the hip is not the same. Hip down like that, then it gets wider on the bottom. This measurement from the starting to the bottom is not the same. So I'm going to place my material on top now. Before I place my material on top, I'm going to cut. This is the shape. I'm going to place on my material and cut. To cut the fabric exactly the way I cut the paper. I finished cutting this one. I'm going to cut this, spread this on the table, then place this on top, the one I just finished cutting on top, this very one. I'm going to cut the same way I cut the first one. I finished cutting. On the bottom here, I'm going to measure 2 inches from bottom here up, 2 inches in curve. Like this. Neckline is 2 inches on the neckline. I'm going to cut the back with ½ inch. A notch. Front, measure 3 inches. From shoulder down here, 3 inches. So I mark. from shoulder down here is 3 inches. From this 3 inches down, I'm going to measure 5 inches. 5 inches here. Cut to where I mark. This is 5 inches. I'm going to cut the turning of the neck. This is the front neck. Place on top like this. Cut 5 inches here. After using these pieces to turn the neck, I will sew the shoulder. Then after sewing the shoulder, then I measure before I cut the collar. Finish sewing the neck and I join the shoulder. After I cut 5 inches, it's too small, so I sewed down a little, like 1 inch to add to it. That means I now cut like 6 inches from the neck down, so I can go through the head. I'm going to iron. Finish ironing, I'm going to measure the neck. I'm going to measure here to this way. Place my tape like this, like this. For 10 inches. From here round like this is 14 inches. I'm going to cut the collar that will go through the neck, the back, the front, 14 inches, and leave ½ inch to sew on this side, ½ inch to sew on this side on the collar. I'm going to cut the collar. This is how the neck is. I fold like this. I fold the triangle shape to place my tape on the tip. I'm going to measure 10 inches. Remember the neck, when I measure it was 14 inches, so I'm going to see I leave ½ inch to sew, more than enough. Let me measure 9.5 inches. 9.5 inches. 9.5 inches. This enough. I measure from here down 9.5 inches, 9.5 inches, 9.5 inches. I'm going to measure here, from here, place my tape here where I mark here. I'm going to measure 2 inches, because after sewing it will remain 1.5 inch. 2 inches all through. 2 inches. 2 inches. I'm going to use this to cut. I'm going to cut 2 of this, then I cut the sleeve. I finished cutting the collar on the neck, so it's going to place stay like this. After sewing, it will remain like 1 inch or 1.5 inch after sewing, like this. I'm going to cut the one to cover up this place. This is the one I cut, 3.5 inches times 11 inches. I'm going to iron gum stay on top, then sew here. I will show you when I start sewing. I'm going to cut the sleeve, fold into 2. Length is 25 inches. This is for the hemming, 2 inches. So I place my tape here, measure 25 inches plus ½ inch to sew. Round sleeve is 9 inches. 9 divided by 2 will give me 4.5 plus 1.5 inch to sew. This is the sleeve. I will start to sew the sleeve. Finish hemming the two sleeve. This one, this very one, I'm going to sew it here on the neck here, stitch it down. This is the high collar. I cut interfacing on it, gum stay. This is gum stay, and I also cut on this. I double this one, I double this too, this one also. So this interfacing, and I also cut extra of this material. This 4 pieces. I cut 4 pieces of the material and double the interfacing gum stay. I'm going to sew like this. This place is where I'm going to sew here around the neck. I'm done with the sewing. After sewing, I bring the right side out to iron. The reason why I cut this 4 is because the gum stay or interfacing is very, very light. I'm going to sew on it now. I'm going to place it on it like this. Then sew inside like this, all around to this point here. Then after sewing, the one I didn't sew along with this one, I will use it to turn so the place will be neat. After doing that, I'll place this one like this and sew one part like this and end it here. I'm going to add press button here, 2 or 3 press button here. I finished sewing around the neck. I'm going to stitch on top like this. Gently, you can iron. I'm going to sew all through around the neck. After I finish doing that, I will place this on top here. Here, I will start from here and sew down. I'm going to use pin to hold before I sew. So I will sew down up to here, fold this inside and sew and hand it here. So this open part, I'm going to sew press button on it. I finished sewing the neck and the part I'm going to add press button on. I sew this, and this is the neck. This is how it looks like. I'm going to sew the sleeve now. After sewing the sleeve, I will join the 2 sides, then I hem the bottom. I'm done with the sewing, and I iron. I'm going to sew press button here, then I'm done with my sewing. Finish sewing press button on it, 1, 2, and this side.